Think wealth can buy happiness? What if one single moment changes everything? A father walks past a beggar on the street, not noticing her at all. But his child sees something he has missed his whole life. Watch till the end to discover what happens and the life-changing lesson they learn. Here's a slightly polished version for clarity and flow. Before we dive into this incredible story, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss our powerful, life-changing content. I remember the sound of my shoes on the stone pavement. They rang with confidence and hurry. The city smelled of fresh coffee and cold metal. Morning light slid between glass buildings and touched my expensive watch. I was thinking about meetings, numbers, promises, and deadlines. I was thinking about success. I was not thinking about pain. Near the old bridge, a woman sat on the ground. A thin blanket covered her shoulders. A cardboard cup rested near her hand. People passed her like passing air. I passed her too. My son walked beside me and held my hand. His fingers were warm. His steps were small and careful. I felt proud. I felt busy. Then my son stopped. His hand slipped from mine. The sudden emptiness startled me. The noise of the street faded. I turned back with irritation rising in my chest. My son was staring at the woman. His eyes were wide. His breathing was uneven. The woman lifted her head. Her face was pale. Her eyes carried deep shadows of sleepless nights. A gust of wind moved her hair. Time slowed inside me. My son whispered my name. His voice trembled like a fragile string. "Dad, that is Mom." The word struck my chest like cold water. The world tilted. Sounds returned too loud and too sharp. I felt heat on my skin and ice in my veins. I looked again. I truly looked. A scar near her eyebrow burned into my memory. A familiar curve of her lips pulled my breath away. Pain rushed back from years I had buried under work and pride. I remembered a hospital corridor. I remembered fear. I remembered leaving too early and believing money could heal everything. I knelt on the cold stone. The ground soaked through my trousers. I felt nothing except shame. She looked at me without anger. Only tired understanding lived in her eyes. My son stepped forward. He placed his small hands into hers. She cried silently. Tears fell onto his jacket. The street kept moving. Cars passed. People stared. In that moment I felt smaller than ever. I felt broken and awake at the same time. I spoke her name. My voice sounded unfamiliar. She answered with a soft smile. Not bitter. Not accusing. Just human. I understood how easy it was to ignore suffering. I understood how hard it was to forgive. I gathered my family in my arms. The city around us breathed again. Warmth replaced the cold inside my chest. I promised with actions instead of words. That day taught me the true cost of blindness. It taught me that love waits patiently even on stone streets. It taught me that wealth without compassion turns into poverty of the soul. And sometimes a child stops the world to remind a grown man how to see. I lifted her gently from the ground. Her body felt light, almost fragile. I felt how little strength remained in her arms. My son held onto her coat and refused to let go. The air smelled of dust and winter leaves. My heart beat loud in my ears. I wrapped my jacket around her shoulders. She trembled, yet she smiled again. That smile hurt more than any accusation. I guided them toward the car. Each step felt heavier than the last. People watched in silence. Some faces carried pity. Some faces carried indifference. The door closed behind us with a dull sound. Warm air filled the space. She closed her eyes for a moment. Her breathing slowed. My son rested his head on her arm. I drove without speaking. The city lights blurred through tears I no longer hid. Memories rose with every street. Our first apartment. The smell of soup in the evenings. Her laughter during hard days. My belief that success required sacrifice. I realized too late what I had sacrificed. We reached my home. The large doors opened silently. Luxury felt cold and empty. I helped her inside. She touched the walls as if they belonged to another world. I prepared tea with shaking hands. Steam rose slowly. The room filled with warmth and quiet. She held the cup carefully. Her fingers were thin. Our eyes met. So many words lived between us. None were ready to be spoken. My son broke the silence with a soft question. He asked if she was tired. She nodded. He smiled and said she could rest. I watched them walk down the hallway together. Their shadows merged on the wall. Something inside me began to heal. I stood alone and breathed deeply. I understood that work awaited me. Not in offices. Not in meetings. But here. In patience. In care. In learning how to be present. I followed them slowly. The night outside grew quiet. And inside this fragile peace, our story continued to unfold. I entered the room softly. The lamp cast a warm circle of light. She sat on the edge of the bed. My son stood close, guarding her like a small knight. Her shoulders finally relaxed. I noticed how exhaustion shaped her posture. Years of silence pressed on my chest. I brought a blanket and placed it around her. She whispered my name again. This time it sounded stronger. I sat opposite her and listened. The house creaked gently. Outside, the wind brushed the windows. She spoke about nights under open skies. About hunger that taught patience. About pride that slowly turned into quiet endurance. Each word settled deep inside me. My hands clenched and released. I felt the weight of every missed day. My son listened with serious eyes. He asked simple questions. She answered with honesty. No blame. Only truth. I realized how much strength lives in tenderness. I realized how love survives neglect. The clock moved forward. Minutes felt like hours. I stood and opened the wardrobe. I searched for clothes. For anything that could offer dignity. She thanked me with a look. Not with words. My son yawned softly. She stroked his hair. The gesture carried years of longing. I promised myself to earn forgiveness slowly. Not with gifts. Not with money. With presence. With time. With listening. I watched them settle into rest. Breathing finally even. I sat nearby and kept watch. Sleep refused to come to me. Thoughts moved like waves. Regret. Hope. Fear. Determination. The night deepened. And with it my resolve grew stronger. Because this moment was not the end. It was the beginning of work. Quiet. Demanding. And necessary. I stepped into the hallway. The floor felt cool beneath my feet. A distant clock marked each second with quiet patience. I heard her slow breathing behind the closed door. The sound filled me with both relief and fear. I sat on the floor outside the room. My back touched the wall. I remembered nights when I chose silence instead of listening. I remembered letters I never finished. I remembered how pride spoke louder than love. My son returned and sat beside me. He leaned against my shoulder. His trust pressed heavier than any burden. He asked if everything would be all right. I told him we would try. Those words tasted honest and raw. The door opened slightly. Soft light spilled into the hallway. She looked weaker yet calmer. Her eyes searched my face. I nodded slowly. She invited me inside with a small gesture. The room smelled of clean sheets and tea. She sat on the edge of the bed. I stood near the window. Moonlight traced lines across the floor. We spoke about ordinary things. About weather. About the city. About our son growing taller. Each simple word carried hidden weight. The silence between sentences grew warmer. I felt tension rise inside me. Not fear. Not anger. Expectation. My hands trembled slightly. I placed them behind my back. She noticed. Her gaze softened. She spoke about the years apart. About nights under bridges. About kindness from strangers. About pain that never asked permission. Every word struck deep. Every pause echoed. My chest tightened. The house felt too large. Too quiet. Too full of missed chances. My son listened from the doorway. His presence kept me steady. I realized how fragile time truly was. How easily love could be lost. How slowly it could return. I moved closer. I sat beside her. Our shoulders touched lightly. The contact sent warmth through me. Outside, the wind brushed the windows. Inside, something waited to be said. Something important. Something unfinished. I sat beside her bed as the first light of morning touched the curtains. The room smelled of clean sheets and warm tea. She slept calmly, like someone who finally felt safe. My son lay nearby, holding her hand even in sleep. I watched them and felt time slow with meaning. I understood how many moments I had traded for comfort and pride. I understood how silence can hurt deeper than poverty. When she opened her eyes, I was still there. I did not look away. I did not rush. I stayed. We spoke quietly. Not about blame. Not about the past. We spoke about healing. About learning again. About walking forward together. Days passed with small steps. Food on the table. Laughter returning slowly. Trust growing like fragile grass after a storm. I worked less. I listened more. I learned that success without kindness leaves a person empty. I learned that love survives even neglect, yet it asks for effort and humility. One evening we walked together near the same bridge. The city looked different to me. Every face mattered now. Every pause carried a story. I held my family close. I felt rich for the first time in my life. The lesson stayed with me like a quiet voice. Never hurry past another human being. Never believe wealth excuses indifference. Because compassion is the true measure of success. And the heart that learns to see others clearly never remains poor. Thank you for listening to this heartfelt story. If it moved you, share it, leave a comment below and let someone know. You are never alone.